She's trying, but these wheels won't turn around. A car garage wouldn't slow it down. She's screaming, baby, I'm not coming back. I'm trying, but these wheels won't turn around. A car garage wouldn't slow it down. She's screaming, baby, I'm not coming back.
I never meant to hurt you. I didn't really mean the words I said. If I could take it all back, I swear I'd never do it all again. Cause I need you by my side and I need you in my life. And if you hear this song, just know that I'll never find a better one. And everything was done out of love. So even when I'm gone, you're always in my heart. A shine down California sun, cause everything was done out of love. So even when I'm gone, you're always in my heart. Serenity. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. So let's get it. You ready? Hey. So I've been out here for a minute, got me grown now. Always moving around, feel like a stranger in my hometown. You ain't really about it unless you really been around it. I've been looking for my moment, now I think I finally found it. Oh yeah. Well, things ain't go according to plan, so now I show the world I've been trying to hide. Won't act like I ain't scared to leave, but this right here's my therapy. I went through the dark and now there's light in my eyes. I just changed the way I see it. All I had to do was start believing. I made mistakes, I'm never gonna repeat it. I took a break, but now I'm never leaving. Yeah, I feel like something woke inside. Heartbeat working overtime. Everything was motorized, but now I'm up and more alive. So let my family know I'm fine and it's a new day. Cause there's a whole lot I gotta say. So I'ma tell the world that I'm on the way. I promise. When we're back, we gon' celebrate. Yeah, baby, save the day. So raise your glass to them better days. Cause they're coming. I know I'm gone and it's getting late, but I'll be there, baby, save the day. Cooped up, I ain't left my place in a few months. I'm going back to basics like a crew cut. Feeling used up, but now I'm grouped, done grinding till I make a few bucks. Somebody do some, ayy. Yeah, I've been depressed, yeah, I've been a mess, but I guess you gotta hit your worst to make it to your best. And I still have my rainy days.
Hello friends, how's everyone today? I'm good. I worked all morning and now I'm gonna hang out at home and hang out with some people on here. Yesterday was fun. We got into a lot of clown stuff and tornadoes and I don't know, what else did we talk about yesterday? There were so many things that we were all talking about yesterday. Tons of Mice decided he's gonna call me Hi, Awoken One. Hi, Leon. Tons of Mice said he's going to start calling me Girl Number One now since I told him I had a part in a movie where I was Girl Number One. I was like, that's hilarious. I might have to make next time we get a new emote, I might have to make like a Girl Number One emote because that's hilarious. Yeah. Why is my thing not up? My videos never, like, pop up like this. There we go. And it's all off. It's off center. I gotta fix it. Awoken One, you should like today because I have... I'm gonna say his name wrong. I can't say names, but I have Tova. I think it's Tova. Is it Tova? We're gonna listen to him talk about the birth narrative and how it's ridiculous. Hi, Marie! Oh, there's people here. There's lots of people here. That's exciting. Yeah, so I'm working on a YouTube video right now about, like, the problems with, like, Jesus's birth narrative. It's basically like a comparison between the Luke narrative and the Matthew narrative and how they can't, like, work together. So I'm about halfway through working on that, and I might have time tonight to do it after this. We'll see. Someone blocked you on Twitter because you posted links about how you was Xmas. Oh my goodness. Twitter is ridiculous, man. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I'm doing a YouTube video on that, but I wanted to hear, like, the Jewish perspective on, you know, the birth narrative of Jesus, and, like, how they claim it's, well, not the Jews, but the Christians claim, like, Jesus had to be born in Bethlehem, and there were basically made up facts in order to get him there, in order to be born in the city that they said he had to be born in. Even though, like, there's no historical record of a lot of the things in Matthew actually happening. But, yeah. And I think getting a Jewish perspective, too, really helps you, like, understand what the original context is supposed to be versus what Christians have turned it into. So, I think this should be good. I really like this rabbi. I like watching his stuff, and I learn a lot. Like, that was the big thing when I came out of the church, was just learning about what the Jews believed, because in church, they never told us what the Jews actually believed. They always just talked about, you know, well, the Jews rejected Jesus, and they don't know what they're talking about because they were just blinded by Satan, and they don't understand that Jesus was supposed to be the true Messiah, and the Jews never believed in Jesus. Yes, Matthew was the best New Testament comedian. I always thought it was funny that when I came out of the church, they always talked about Matthew being, like, the one who was trying to get the Jewish people to, like, understand who Jesus was supposed to be, but I'm sure this video will tell us just, like, how off he really was about that, and how... Oh, Pop-Tart Jesus. I saw him pop. Yeah, how it doesn't line up with Jewish prophecy, and it doesn't line up with what the Messiah was actually supposed to do. So, it's weird. And the more you know about, like, the Jewish faith, the less Christianity makes sense, because it doesn't line up with any of the things that Jews actually believe. So I thought this would be fun. And, you know, Christmas is coming, so getting different perspectives on, you know, the Christmas holiday and what other people believe.
Okay, cooler. Caller, you're live on the air. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Jessica. I'm calling from California.
Jessica from California. Welcome.
Yeah, just a quick question. With Christmas, Christians recounting the story of Jesus' birth, they say that it was foretold by the Magi, seen in the stars, and then they followed the star to where Jesus was born. And who exactly was the Magi, and why weren't the Jewish able to see it in the stars, as they say? And then they also say that it was further acknowledged by King Herod, because he then ordered all of the Jewish infant boys to be murdered because the Messiah was coming.
So you're asking me, just to be clear, why do Christians believe this?
And then there's that Magi, magician, witchcraft. Yeah. Actually, I think in the original, like, the Magi were supposed to be, like, from... I don't know if this is true or not. I've heard this from somewhere where they said the Magi were supposed to be, like, part of the religion of Zoroastrianism, but I don't know if that's entirely true or not. But it is funny because when I look at nativity scenes, like, even in the church I clean, they have, like, nativity scenes, and the people that are, like, dressed like the Magi and supposed to be, like, the three kings, they definitely, like, look like they could be part of Zoroastrianism. I can't say words. And it just makes me laugh because it's just such a mix of different cultures and religions, and Christians are just oblivious to what all this actually means.
Why is Matthew conveying the story? Like,
Does it have any historical standing? Is there history of King Herod actually ordering this infanticide for the Jewish people because he is acknowledging that the Messiah has come? And how could another culture like the Magi foretell a Jewish Messiah, I guess?
Cool.
okay.
Awesome. Okay. Jessica, go ahead and hang up now.
Thank you.
Answer. Okay. Thanks for your call. Bye-bye.
So the story that Jessica asked about is unique to the book of Matthew. These are people from the East, non-Jews, Persian almost certainly. The word magic has its origins in that word. And in the ancient world,
There you go, Leon. Magi magic. You were right.
in the Persian world, people who studied the stars and people who performed magic, that was interchangeable. The key point that Matthew is conveying is that non-Jews were looking for the Messiah and Jews were not. The whole point of Matthew chapter 2, the infancy narrative, is to convey that whereas the Gentiles were looking for the Messiah, the Jews were not. Worse, the Jews would do everything possible to kill the Messiah. The story in the book of Matthew is completely made up. It's not historical, but it is a brilliant device to convey how the Gentiles are seeking after God, have a simple desire to follow God, and the Jews detest and reject the Messiah and seek only his death.
That is very interesting because I've never heard it, like, talked about that way. And I was always told in the church that Matthew was trying to get, like, the Jewish people to understand that Jesus was supposed to be the Messiah because he had fulfilled the supposed prophecies that they claimed were prophecies when they really weren't. But the whole, like, that the Gentiles were actually looking for the Jewish king, that makes a lot more sense when you think about the Magi, because it's like it ties into, like, the whole idea that Christianity basically became a religion for Gentiles because, you know, they couldn't get the Jews to believe that Jesus was the Messiah because he didn't fulfill what they knew were prophecies and he didn't do what the Messiah was supposed to do. And it's just, it's an interesting way to look at it, and it definitely can change the perspective you have on it, because I know for me, in the church, they didn't link that whole, like, Gentile and Christian or Gentile and Jewish thing. And unfortunately, Christianity is very anti-Judaism, and that's why a lot of their writings in the New Testament are against the Jewish people, because they blame the Jewish people for killing Christ, and they blame the Jewish people for not seeing that Jesus was the Messiah. And instead of actually looking at the evidence and actually looking at, you know, what the Jews were told to look for in the Messiah, they just put all the blame on the Jews, and they say, nope, it's your fault because you have closed eyes and Satan has blinded you and you have no idea what you're talking about. But it's so unfair because Christians are the ones who don't know what they're talking about, because they have no idea what the Jewish Messiah was even supposed to do, or who he was supposed to be, or any of that. They just clung on to this idea that Paul created, that he was this heavenly being, and I mean, and I don't even know, like, if Paul believed that Jesus was a real person or not. But he definitely didn't follow the earthly Jesus, because we know the earthly Jesus, like, supposedly, according to the Bible, said you had to follow the law of the Jews. And Paul's the one who changed it and said, oh no, you can just pray a prayer and you'll be saved. If it wasn't for the Jews, there would be no Christianity. They should be thanking the Jews. Yeah, unfortunately, Christians don't do that. They just tend to make them more of their enemies, and which is ridiculous, because I mean, the Jewish people probably know their scripture way better than Christians do. And I know from, you know, the Jewish people that I have watched on YouTube, and even some of, like, just, like, there's, like, websites and stuff that talk about the Old Testament and, like, the Tanakh and things like that. And if you go on and read those things, you can really see that a lot of those things they don't line up with Christianity at all. And they can't line up with Christianity. And if you're going to follow Judaism, you cannot say that Jesus was the Messiah, because you would understand what the Messiah was supposed to be and what he was supposed to fulfill. And Jesus didn't fulfill those things, and he wasn't that person. But it makes sense that Matthew wrote about Gentiles searching, because that's kind of what Christianity became. It became the religion of the Gentiles, and the people, you know, who didn't want to convert to Judaism, it kind of gave them a cop-out to just be like, oh, I can just pray a prayer and I will be accepted. The Jews know Tanakh in its original language. Yeah, exactly. And that gives it a whole different meaning too, because if you know what the original, like, verses say in their context that they were written and in the language they're written, it paints a whole different picture. And that's what I don't understand about, like, preachers and people in the church that, like, do study Hebrew languages and actually know what the Bible says, but they still cling on to the idea that Jesus is the Messiah. It baffles me that you can be so educated about those things and, like, know that there are things that really have been twisted, but for some reason you cling to the idea that it's still true. Giving your energy to a deity to have them do your will. Taps his wand. Sounds familiar. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's so weird to me. And I wish more Christians would, like, study, you know, like, the original Tanakh and study, like, what Jews actually believed. Because they go after the Jewish people so much, because, like, in the New Testament it says, like, the Jewish people will come back to God in the end, and, like, they'll believe in Jesus. So a huge part of when I was growing up was like, oh, we need to go out and we need to convert Jews, because that's how Jesus is going to come back. We have to convert the Jews to Jesus. Which is never going to happen, because the Jews know their scripture better than Christians do, so.
And as it turns out, Matthew chapter 2 would parallel Matthew chapter 27 perfectly. They parallel. I mean, these are bookends. The story that comes up in Matthew, and as I said, the infancy narrative, which is found only in Matthew and Luke. There are 89 chapters in the Gospels, but only 4 of those 89 chapters contain an infancy narrative. 2 of them are in Matthew, 2 of them are in Luke, and they are wildly different. Yes. In Matthew, the family, Mary and Joseph, are originally from Bethlehem. That's home. That's where they start off. In Luke, the family begins in Nazareth and has to come to Bethlehem because of some census. None of that made-up census, people had to go back to their hometown. That's all made up, and Luke is using a completely different plot device. There's no magi following stars in Luke. It's not that they're just providing different information. They contradict each other so completely that even believing Christian scholars can't explain the contradictions. I want to focus on Matthew.
Yeah, and that's the big thing that I'm doing in my YouTube video, is that the fact that, like he said, they contradict so much, they can't be the same story. And I just find it fascinating that it's funny to me, like, when they have, like, the pageants and stuff in church, because it's always, they, like, mix the two together, where it's like, oh, yeah, they went to Bethlehem, and, they were, you know, stayed in an inn, and the shepherds and the magi, they came and you know, bowed down before him, and there were angels, and the problem is, that's the two stories mixed together. Like, I think it's, oh yeah, it's Matthew. Matthew's the one that has the magi come, but Luke's the one that has the shepherds come. So they're two different stories. Luke never says anything about the magi, and Matthew never says anything about the shepherds coming. And it's just little things like that. And then there's, I don't know if he's going to get into the whole Egypt thing, because that is definitely something that is a huge inconsistency in the birth narratives, and definitely throws it off, because, you know, this family can't be in two places at once. I don't know if he'll get into it, but if he doesn't, it's going to be in my YouTube video. But Tova's very knowledgeable. Yeah, he is, and I really like watching him and, like, understanding how the Jews, like, thought about the Messiah. How a Christian can stand there and say Moses turning his staff into a snake isn't magic, because it's God magic. And that's the problem, is, like, you're not allowed to do anything in Christianity that doesn't come from God. So, like, if God gives you healing power to heal a limb on someone, that's okay, because it's God power. But any power that is not God power is considered satanic power. Excuse me. And so, if you're not getting your power from the deity that you follow, then you're getting it from Satan. And Satan is, like, the Christian's enemy. So if you're getting your power from Satan, then you're a Christian's enemy. Which is ridiculous. I get it. It's all the same. Like, magic is magic. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Like, the idea that it has to be from a certain deity in order for it to be good or bad it's crazy. It's one of those things that Christians, they don't think about those things. It's God or Satan. There's no middle ground or any of that. It's Christian stupidity. Yeah.
Matthew wants to convey that whereas the Jews are blind, worse, that the Jews are enemies of Christ, worse, the Jews want to kill the Messiah, worse, the Jews refuse to worship the Messiah, but the Gentiles want to worship the Messiah. Just like the Roman soldier at the cross who recognizes the centurion. Who's that? It's like practically a general. It's a very high-level Roman soldier that recognizes this is truly the Son of God. The Roman gets it, and the Jews don't. And the Jews are conspiring to have Jesus crucified and conspiring to pay off the Roman soldiers to claim that they fell asleep. I mean, so the Jews are evil, and they are conspiring to destroy God and his plan for salvation. Now let's go back, and you'll see it in the text. So
It's just interesting to me that, like, Christianity basically turned Jews into God's enemy, when all of the Old Testament is about the Jews being God's people. Like, even, like, in the Old Testament, when he got mad at the Jewish people, he never, like, said, oh, I'm just gonna peace out and never be your God again. Like, he's, like, yeah, he hated them whining and complaining, and he hated them, like, doing some of the stuff they did and disobeying and stuff, but at the same time, when you look at it, not once did he say, I'm gonna just completely abandon you. At least I don't think he said that. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, tell me in the chat. But from the Old Testament that I know, like, he never was like, I'm not gonna be your God anymore. I'm not gonna just peace out. And that's where the New Testament doesn't make any sense, because it basically is like, yeah, you're not my chosen people anymore. I'm just gonna let everyone be my chosen people. Which doesn't make sense, because if you're the chosen people, why would he change his mind and then just let everyone in? Like, it's kind of like having a secret club. Only certain people can be in the club, and, God chose the Jews to be in his club. And that's the people that he wanted on his team. But Christianity takes that and just goes, oh no, everyone can be on my team. God said he would never abandon his people. Yeah, that's what I thought. And, they always talk about that. I thought they talked about that in church, where it was like, oh no, God is always on your side. But the God of the Old Testament is on the Jewish people's side. Like, they're the ones in the club. They're the ones he's promised everything to. They're the ones who are going to get his blessing. Not Christians, not Gentiles, not all these other people that claim they are part of this club when that's not what God said in the first place. And I know, like, a lot of Christians will be like, oh no, like, they take Jesus's words and they make them fit into this idea that they are the ones that are supposed to be chosen by God. I'm trying to remember. I know there's a verse in there, but I don't remember it right now. I had it and then it went away. All right, back to Tova.
The Magi are following a star, and they wind up in Jerusalem in Herod's palace. Okay? We don't know how many Magi there are. People think Matthew is describing 3, and that's how the coloring books describe, because there are 3 presents given later, but actually we're not told. The key is that they're following a star in the sky to Jerusalem. So if they're coming from the east, let's just say they're coming from Persia, modern-day Iran. Okay? That's how the story is told. And they're looking for the Messiah. And there's a magical star that they can follow. I don't want to get into the idea of how do you follow a star. Like, what does that mean? It's a magical star, and this magical star has magical properties. And this story is found in mythologies all over the place, in not only the Greco-Roman world and in the Far East, but I want to set that all aside. They follow a star and they come to Herod's palace. And they ask the question, where is the Messiah to be born? Herod actually doesn't know in the story, because Herod is not really Jewish. He's an Edomite. He doesn't know anything, okay? But
I don't know if you probably can't see it, but this video has 666 likes, and I had to stop and say that because I think it's hilarious. It's called navigation. Effing navigation, man. Yeah, I know people can, like, okay, so we know people can, like, follow stars and, like, make star maps and stuff. I don't know if you guys seen Moana, but that's, like, a huge, like, point in Moana is that, like, the people could actually use the stars to, like, follow things. So our ancestors guided themselves by stars for centuries. Yeah, and that was a key point in Moana, was that people use the stars to guide them to where they needed to be and, like, find different islands and stuff. So, I mean, it's not preposterous that people used, stars for navigation and stuff. But it's probably just weird in this day and age where we have, like, GPS and it just tells us where to go, as opposed to, like, you actually had to, like, learn where certain stars were and constellations and things like that to get where you're going.
But there are Jews there are Pharisees there are scribes there are important, smart Jews that are there who say the Messiah is supposed to be born in Bethlehem based on the passage in Micah chapter 5, verse 2 in the Christian Bible, 5:1 in a Jewish Bible. That's Matthew chapter 2, verse 6. Now, the author of Matthew is going to just rip apart that verse, meaning the end of the passage in Micah chapter 5 is removed, and something else is put in instead to make it look like the Messiah is supposed to be born in Bethlehem. So it's completely misconstrued. What we are told in Micah 5:2, again in a Christian Bible, 5:1 in a Jewish Bible, there will be a ruler, and that's Toya the Messiah, and his connection, Umoisaisav, and his connection to Bethlehem is from ancient times. Meaning the Messiah who's yet to come, Micah lived 2,700 years ago, so the Messiah who's yet to come, will come in the future, he will be connected to Bethlehem, not because he's born in Bethlehem, but Umoisaisav, and his origin, his connection is Mikedem, from earlier times, from Kaidim, from the earliest time, Mimei Olam, from the earlier days. That is removed, is cut out. You'd have to compare. I implore you, if you are a Christian, just open up Micah 5:2.
It's just interesting that, like, I didn't even realize, like, a lot of the verses in the Old Testament were changed in a Christian Bible. But if you actually, I need to get, like, an actual Tanakh. Like, I've looked online. They have some online that I looked at, but it is interesting because the Christian Bible has been changed in order to make it seem like Jesus was supposed to be the Messiah. But like he said, like, they ripped things out of context and they basically rewrote things in, like, the Old Testament in order to make Jesus the Messiah. So when you go back and read the Old Testament, you're like, oh, this is what this actually says. But if you actually go and get, like, a Jewish Tanakh, it might say something completely different. And then you would be really confused because you'd be like, oh, I was told my whole life this is true and this makes sense and it lines up with this, but then that's not what the original says, so what's happening? But I think it's an important thing to know, like, the history of the Bible and the Tanakh, because I think so many people get just not confused, but, like, they don't understand that things can be changed over time, and they don't understand that things have been changed to create this agenda that the church wanted to create. You know, I don't know who, like, wrote the New Testament or whatever, but from everything I've seen and from everything I've, like, researched and stuff, it seems like wherever the Catholic Church came from, these people just made up all these ideas and decided that this is how it's gonna be, or they found things that they thought lined up with Jesus and created him into this demigod that came down to save humanity. But I think a lot of those people had no idea what the Jews actually believed and what the Old Testament actually said. Or if they did, they just changed it for their own agenda, and that's the scary part, is that so many people believe in this religion that was completely, basically just ripped out of context and made into something completely different than what it was originally supposed to be. And the people who are in Christianity don't go back and look and make sure that, you know, scripture hasn't been changed and scripture hasn't been, you know, rewritten in a way to make what they believe true. And that's exactly what has happened with the Christian Bible, is a lot of that stuff has been added later or taken out, or there's stories that have been added even in later times that weren't originally there. Like, we know the story about Jesus and the rocks and the adulterous woman. Like, that's not in the original writings, like in the New Testament. Like, that came way later, but it's still in the Bible today. And then you have to think about all the books that were rejected because they didn't fit that agenda. And it's like, at what point do you draw a line and just go, all of this is ridiculous? Like, Chabad.org. Yeah, that's where I get my, that's where I get all my stuff, is that right there, what you just said. Chabad.org. Yeah, I go on there and I look at some of the Tanakh and stuff, because I don't know, ever since I learned that, like, a lot of the stuff in the Christian Bibles have been changed from, like, they're not from the original Jewish, like, I try to go back and, like, check those things, because want to be accurate, but I'm not going to be perfect. I mean, I grew up Christian, so a lot of the stuff I was told was from the Christian perspective, and didn't God himself say, don't change what I wrote, yo? Yeah, he did. And I think he even said, like, somewhere, I know in the New Testament he says don't add, but I think in the Old Testament too it says, like, don't add to the book or whatever. But then the Christians added to the New Testament, and they're just like, oh no, like, God did this. Even though it says, like, don't add to this book. Like, this is God's book. Like, Christians just make excuses and basically do whatever they want as long as it, like, falls in the realm of what they see as their religion. Like, if it doesn't make Christianity true, then they'll do whatever they want to make it true, versus, you know, actually looking at the Old Testament and seeing, like, God said the Torah is forever, and God said he will never change, and God said he's not a man, and he can't die, and there's so many verses in the Old Testament that if you actually read the Old Testament and, like, knew what it said, you would know that there's no way that the God of the Old Testament could be the same God of the New Testament, because it doesn't line up. They can't be the same God, because everything the Old Testament God said doesn't line up with what is taught in the New Testament. I mean, some of it is, like, Jesus definitely said you needed to, like, follow the law and stuff, but then you had Paul come along and change everything, so. And it's really hard to, like, get Christians to see that, too, because it's like, you know, Paul's experience with Jesus was not an earthly experience. It was, well, we don't know if it was a hallucination or who knows. We don't know. But from what I've seen and, like, the evidence and stuff, I don't think it was a real encounter with anything. I think it could have been a mental issue or a breakdown or something that made him believe that this entity or deity or whatever came to him and told him these things, even though it completely goes against everything that Jesus, like, taught, and against everything the disciples were teaching, and how Jesus said he had there's the verse I was thinking of. Like, Jesus said he came for, like, the people of Israel. He said he didn't come for anyone else. Like, he came to be the Jewish Messiah. But Christians take that as, oh no, he came for me because I'm part of the chosen one too. And it's like, no, you're not. This is not how this works. There's no hell. Jesus was speaking in parables. Yeah, it's always interesting that people take that parable of, like, Lazarus in hell as, like, a true fact, when he was speaking about a parable. But then we also get that whole, like, well, why was he talking about Lazarus in hell? And then at another time he was talking about Lazarus being his best friend, and he raised him from the dead. I mean, maybe Lazarus was just a popular name back then, like Jesus or Joshua. But, yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of things, too, is, like, people take a lot of those. Christianity's a complete joke. Yeah. A lot of people take a lot of what Jesus says literally, when a lot of the stuff he was saying wasn't supposed to be taken literally. A lot of it was supposed to be taken as a parable, like, to teach you something. But now I'm, like, thinking of all the parables that he taught, and I'm like, which ones do people take literally?
So using a Christian Bible, and then if you can have two Bibles next to you, because it makes it easy to look at both, and look at Matthew chapter 2, verse 6, and you'll see what's happened. And his origins are from ancient times, from earlier times, appears in your Micah 5:2. I don't care if you use a King James. I don't care what you do. Some of them have it from eternity because they want to amp it up more. Whatever. You'll see that the text is saying in Micah that the ruler, who's the Mashiach, his connection to Bethlehem is not that he's born in Bethlehem, but because of an ancient connection from a long, long time ago. Who was born in Bethlehem? We know who's born in Bethlehem. King David.
Yeah, so he doesn't have to be born in Bethlehem. And the fact that they had to, like, make up a story to get him born in Bethlehem just shows you how much the Christian authors had no idea what the Jewish people were actually talking about. Or they did, and they just ignored it and, like I said, created agenda around Jesus because they wanted Jesus to be the Messiah. Even though he didn't fit any of the criteria of the Messiah.
How do you know? It says it. See 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 56 as an example. So people are confused by this. I just want to explain this. Take an extra moment because I get this question too often. Micah lived 2,700 years ago during the Assyrian Empire, which means he lived roughly 300 years after King David. Okay, you got that? So King David lived about 3,000 years ago. Micah, Isaiah, they lived about 2,700 years ago. These prophets, Micah in particular, is saying that the future ruler who will come has a connection to Beis Lechem. What is the connection? The future ruler, who is the Mashiach, his connection to Bethlehem will not be that he is born in Bethlehem, but Umoitzoisav, which means his going forth. Umoitzoisav really means his emergence, his connection to it, is not that he's born in Bethlehem. Now, I'm adding in those words, so bracketing in, but the origin is from the old days. So Micah is referring to the birth of King David in Bethlehem as old days because it happened 300 years ago. Got it? You got it? You got it? I get that question a lot, and
So that goes into the whole idea of, like, people were trying to say Jesus's connection to David was through Mary because Mary supposedly was in the same lineage as David. But then you get Christians who say, oh no, his lineage is through Joseph, even though if you look at the Christian version, it can't be through Joseph because Joseph supposedly wasn't the father. Depending on who you talk to. There were some, like, original, because Christianity in the beginning, there were different groups of Christians that all had different ideas of what they believed. And there were groups of Christians who actually believed that Jesus was a human. They believed that Jesus was born of human parents, and they believed that Joseph and Mary were, actual people, and they were actually his parents. And over time, I don't know how the birth narratives got started, and they spiraled into what we have today, where it's like, no, Jesus got impregnated by the Holy Spirit, and then Jesus was really God, but he was also human because he came through Mary because she was human. The whole birth narrative story is just ridiculous because you have to have so much faith and so much, like, you basically have to block off any logic in your mind to make it work, because logically this doesn't work in real life. And, like, why would God do this at a time when, virgin births were, like, a big deal? Like, Jesus wasn't the only, like, demigod or even just ruler who supposedly was born from a virgin birth. There are countless others that have similar stories about being born of a virgin or being born from certain gods or whatever, and it's, like, not a new narrative. And you think if the God of the universe wanted people to know that he sent their, savior of the world, he would do it in a way that is not similar to all the other cultures in the past and future that are going to do the same thing. But like I said, it goes to show, the culture and the time period where people were creating these myths around certain people, and they were using similar myths as other countries and cultures around them.
This is a great opportunity to address that. The author of Matthew can't let that last part stand. He erases that end, and his origins are from early days, from ancient times. He has to just take it out, takes a scissor and cuts it out, and he installs instead, he will be a shepherd over Israel, skipping a verse and taking a passage from 2 verses later. Got it? So what the author of Matthew does is he literally cuts out a whole section beginning from the end of 5:2 and cutting out the following verse and going to the following, and then putting in, if you read it in Matthew 2:6, it reads, and he'll be a shepherd over Israel. Whoa, what happened is his origins are from ancient times. And I'm telling you, men and women, just hold 2 Bibles side by side. If you're doing this online, open 2 separate browsers. I don't want you to get this wrong. I don't want to stay on this point a long time, but you need to get this right. You need to see it in front of your eyes. I don't want you to take my word for it. I need you to see it for yourself, what the author of Matthew has done.
He's completely changed the narrative to fit into the criteria that he wants, as opposed to actually taking the original context of the verse and putting it in there and making it work that way. But if he left that original context in there, I think people would be really confused because it wouldn't line up with that narrative that Jesus had to be born in Bethlehem. So he copy and pasted it. He cut it and didn't paste it, and he pasted the next verse and just skipped over a verse. But it's incredible to me that people, like, don't see these things. And it's, like he said, like, take 2 different Bibles and look at it, because that's gonna change your whole perspective, too, when you can see, like, these things were taken out of context. They were cherry-picked. Buffet Christians, like, they were doing it back then, too. Like, they cherry-picked what verses they needed to put in to make Jesus the Messiah versus taking the original scripture and looking at it and going, this is the original scripture. This is not what it says. Misquoted, yes. Lots of misquoting. And lots of cutting and adding things in to make it what they want versus what the Jewish Messiah is actually supposed to be.
He has corrupted the text. He just dislodged a piece. He cut out a piece, jettisoned it, and put in, he'll be a shepherd over Israel, which is found in the following passage, and slammed it together. And you are then lost in the church celebrating Christmas. Because you think there's a prophecy in the book of Micah that prophesies that the Messiah will be born in Bethlehem, when the actual passage is a prophecy that the Messiah is from the dynasty of King David, and David, who is from ancient times, was the one who was born in Bethlehem, not the Messiah. This is one of 11 fulfillment citations of the book of Matthew. All of them are corrupt. All of them are filthy. All of them are dirty. All of them are sketchy. Not one clear text. Okay. Now we are going to move on. Listen very carefully. There's a lot at stake here for you. He is then told, this story never happened. This is a plot device. In order to get Jesus to be born in Bethlehem. This is the purpose of Matthew and Luke, but they each use a different plot device that are mutually exclusive of each
I'm definitely with him on the whole idea that I don't think the birth narrative is real. I think it was very much a myth made up after the fact to make Jesus the Jewish Messiah. But like he said, it doesn't make any sense because it isn't quoted correctly and it isn't put in correctly. Like the Awoken One said, like everything is misquoted because that's the only way they can make Jesus the Messiah, is to misquote it and to make people think that what they're reading is what the Old Testament actually says about Jesus, when in reality that's not what it says at all. It's a way to trick people into believing that they have the right religion and that they're following the right religion and the right God, but they're not following anything correct, because they don't even know what the Jews believe, and they don't understand what the Old Testament actually says. And they don't go back and check. Like he said, hold two Bibles together and check them out. If they don't match, then there's something wrong. And that can change your whole perspective on, who Jesus actually was versus who they say he was.
Each other. The purpose of this is how do we get Jesus to be born in Bethlehem when everyone knows he's from Nazareth? Now, the magic star takes them to Jerusalem. This is very important. Listen carefully. This is not any star as is characterized in the book of Matthew. This is a magic star. This magic star knows how to find Jerusalem when you're in Persia. And that's around 1,000 kilometers away, east. So it's people from the east. The Magi then get the information that the Messiah is to be born in Bethlehem, and
Highlight all the verses in the that the New Testament writers quote, and go back and read the Old Testament in context. That's a good idea to do that too. I'm gonna have to do that at some point when I have time. Time is scarce right now.
and the star then begins to move. The star goes, oh, now I'm putting that in, but what is there is that, oh,
Talking star.
and the star then moves from Jerusalem to Bethlehem. Just so you know, Jerusalem and Bethlehem are really close. You can easily walk from Jerusalem to Bethlehem in a few hours. And from some parts of Jerusalem, you can do it in less. I mean, some parts of Jerusalem, it's right there. It's like it's just very, very close. Okay, I don't know if it's depends on what part of Jerusalem, but it's just really close. It's a little south. It's in Judea. Hebron is a little further. I don't want to confuse you. This magic star, without knowing which house Jesus is born in, knows to stop over the home of the Messiah where Jesus was born. How did the star even know that? No one is. If you ask me, where does Charlie live? And I said, in Bethlehem, you go, what street does he live on? Where in Bethlehem? The star knows. The star, it's more than GPS, because the star suddenly becomes a genius. Whereas the star before just knew to go to Herod's palace in Jerusalem.
Bye, Leon. Have a good night.
Now the star can figure out where in Bethlehem was the Messiah born. The Magi then come at the home of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and they worship the child. And they of course, bring gifts, okay? Now, the way the story continues is Herod the Great is alerted by this that, whoa, the Messiah, the King of the Jews, is born in Bethlehem. We need to kill this child. Why? Because I'm the king and I don't want competition. Herod then orders that every child born in Bethlehem, every child that's 2 years old and younger, has to be executed in Bethlehem. Okay? The slaughter of the innocents. This story did not happen. There is no mention of every child in Bethlehem being executed by Herod the Great. It just didn't happen. The point is that whereas the Gentiles are looking to serve and worship Messiah, they're not as smart as the Jews, but they just want to worship the truth.
What was I gonna say? The slaughtering of the innocent is kind of parallel to the whole them killing all the baby boys in Egypt, which I think it was just another plot device where they were trying to, make those parallel, because I know a lot of the stuff that they talk about with Jesus and stuff, they tried to parallel a lot of his life with some of the Old Testament characters, and so making it seem like, all these babies were being killed at the time that he was born. That goes back to when Moses was born, and how they slaughtered all the kids 2 years and younger, all the male babies, because they didn't want, them to create an army and rise up against them. So, I can see where those parallels are and how they were retelling the story to make Jesus seem like he was the Messiah and he was born at this time. But once again, the slaughtering of the innocent is another one that has been misquoted, because we know that the verse that they use for that had nothing to do with babies being killed and stuff. It was talking about, like, people being held captive and coming back to their land because they were held captive somewhere and then they needed to come back to their land. And then, the mom rejoiced because they got to come back to their land. But they don't tell you that in the church. Like, it's like, oh no, this is about, she's crying out in pain because her baby's being killed. And it's, like he said, it's their plot devices used to create this narrative to make Jesus seem like he's the Messiah, when in reality, it has nothing to do with that. They're copy and paste and take out what doesn't fit with their narrative. Misquote everything.
The Jews want to kill the Messiah and destroy the innocent. That's the story that's going on here. In Matthew chapter 2, Joseph is told, you need to take the child and Mary and get out of here because Herod is looking to kill the child. Go to Egypt and be thou there until I give thee word, for Herod is seeking the child to destroy him. So Joseph took the Holy Family, Mary and Jesus, and they went to Egypt and were there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled from the scripture, out of Egypt have I called my son. I'm not kidding. It's Matthew chapter 2, verse 14 and 15. If you look up that text, which is from the book of Hosea, another contemporary of Isaiah, Hosea, Micah, Isaiah, all lived the exact same time, and you read the text from the beginning, it's not talking about the Messiah going to Egypt. If you go to Hosea chapter 11, verse 1, we have another crime committed by Matthew, another fake fulfillment citation. The original text in Hosea chapter 11, verse 1 says, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and I called my son out of Egypt. Matthew once again pulls the scam and just rips out the whole beginning of Hosea chapter 11 and just...
It's crazy that they take so many of the Old Testament scriptures that talk about Israel and, like, the land of Israel, or God's people, or the Jewish people, and they change it to make it into what, Jesus was supposed to be. And I don't know how they think they can get away with it. I guess for centuries they could, because, they didn't want people to have Bibles for this very reason, because if someone had a Bible and was literate and can actually read, eventually they would figure out that they have been tricked and been told things that aren't true. And I think that's a big thing. Like, the Catholic Church for a long time wouldn't let people read the Bible. They wouldn't let them have them in their houses, and people would, like, be killed and stuff for just having one, because, you could find out the truth if you could actually read a Bible and know what it actually says. And nowadays it just baffles me that so many Christians have not just one Bible, like, they have several Bibles. Like, I'm an atheist now, but I have at least 5 Bibles in my house. At least. Probably more. and they're all different versions of the Bible. But at the same time, like, I have them in my house. I can go read, what the prophecies were actually supposed to be and what they actually say, and make sure that what I'm being told is true and that it lines up with what, the Jewish Messiah was supposed to be, and they weren't ripping scripture out of context and things like that. And so many people, like, they have the information in their hands. Like, you don't even need a physical Bible today. I can go online and go to, like, BibleGateway.com and get a Bible verse and look it up. Like, we live in an age where you can, every type of information you can even think of is at your fingertips. But people are still so wrapped up in this idea that what they believe has to be true that they're not willing to actually research it and make sure it's true. Or if they research it, it's only one-sided. Because a lot of the Christians I talk to, like, oh yeah, I have evidence because I read, like, Lee Strobel, and I read Josh McDowell, and I read, I don't know, all those other apologetic books that people put out. And they think it's evidence. The Christians don't think to check back, yeah. They think it's evidence. They think everything that they believe lines up with what they've been told, but like he said, it's not. It's very, very not what they claim it to be. And if you took 10 minutes out of your day every day and actually looked it up, like, you would see that it's a lot of misquotes and a lot of things being pulled out of context in order to create this agenda that this person was supposed to be the Messiah, when they're really not supposed to be the Messiah. They need my notes. I love your notes. I read them all the time. I haven't gone through all of them, but I do like reading all your notes because a lot of them are from, like, the Jewish perspective, and I like reading those because I get to understand, like, you know, the original context of things and actually understanding, like, what they're talking about versus, you know, what Christians claim they're talking about, so it's interesting. It's very interesting. And he's talking a lot more about stuff than I've got to talk. Like, I only have, like, 4 things, I think, in my YouTube video that I'm doing. I might have to do another one because he's, like, telling me all this other stuff that I didn't even know. Like, I didn't, 2.5 billion people believe in a misquoted religion. Yep. And I live in the country that is primarily that religion and thinks that our government should be a theocracy because God's on their side. And if it's not a theocracy, then God's gonna wipe us out like he did with the Israelites. Like, that's what I'm always told when I was in the church. It's like, if we don't follow God, if we disobey, America's going down. It's just like, oh my God, people, this is not reality. But yeah, he's diving way deeper than I dove because I think I only have like 4 things on the video that I made, but one of them was the killing of the innocent. That was one on my video, and then the virgin birth. I'm trying to think what the other ones were, but he's digging way deeper into like even some of the like misquotes in there, because I didn't talk too much about like the misquotes of things. I think I talked about the misquote with the killing of the innocent in my video, but I don't think I talked about any of the other like misquoted things. I'm halfway through. I gotta get it done. Like, I have it. I mean, I have all the recording. I'm doing the animation now, which the animation takes a while because like I gotta get the voice lined up with the talking, and it's not always as easy as you think it's gonna be. Like, I will sit there for like 20 minutes trying to get my character to look like it's saying the words out of my mouth sometimes. But I also think I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to like my animated videos. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see once I'm done with it.
Takes the last words, out of Egypt have I called my son, and he quotes that, and he jettisons the whole first part. This is so crazy. So crazy. So Matthew 2:6 and Matthew 2:15 do the same thing, but reversed. In Matthew 2:6, the author of Matthew removes the end of the original verse from Micah and preserves the beginning. However, in Matthew,
Another 2 billion believe a religious holy book that includes the virgin birth of Jesus. There's so many people that just believe in religion and things that just don't make sense. And they don't line up with reality, and I just don't. Even if, like, the prophecies and everything that they claim 100% lined up, you still have problems with, like, history. Because, like he said, there's no historical record that some of these things that they claim in the Bible happened. But they still just... They're going to cling on to it even if it doesn't line up with facts, because they don't care about facts. They care about, you know, their religion being correct. The Quran. Yeah, I don't know much about the Quran. Everyone keeps telling me, like, I should read it and look into it, but I haven't done that yet. Maybe one day I'll get into it.
2 verse 15, the author does the same thing but reverse. He preserves the end and eradicates and jettisons the beginning. Please, 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 please look it up for yourself. Please. Before you go to church on December 25th, say, you know what? I'm going to look this up for myself. I don't want to defile myself anymore. I'm done with that. And I encourage you to do the following. Open up your Bible. I don't care what Bible you have.
Any Bible. All the Bibles.
Please open up 2 Bibles. Open up one Bible to Matthew 2, verse 15. And then the second one, I want you to open up to Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. Please do this. Because
I have a Jews for Jesus Bible, and I have to wonder, like, if it's any different. Because I know a lot, like, they try to explain a lot of the out of context stuff in that Bible. So I have to wonder, like, how much of that they, like, twisted in that Bible to make Jesus the Messiah, or if they just copied the Christian Bible and just claimed it was a Jewish Bible, even though it's not. It's a Jews for Jesus Bible, which is completely different.
because the time is now to repent. The time is now to turn away from this filth. And I'm saying, don't trust me. And you don't have to even use a Jewish Bible for this. Use whatever you want. You can use a Bible that has a giant cross on it. I don't care. In this case, it doesn't make a difference. Look, if you love God, and I have a feeling that you're not watching this because I have a nice blue shirt. You're watching this for edification because you want to serve God in truth. And you want to be loyal to him. And you're done with serving men, and you want to serve the true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And you want to know if the book of Matthew is reliable or if it is filled with lies and sin, if it's a theological crime scene. If you want to know, did Matthew accurately characterize what it says in the Hebrew Bible or not? Don't you want to know? Aren't you curious whether Christianity is a false religion or not? If it's a true religion, celebrate it. But if it isn't, run from it. And what I'm doing is I'm not asking you to, don't buy my book. Forget that. Just
Don't buy
Matthew chapter 2, verse 15.
Just use your own logic and use the only tools that you already have, and we'll figure it out.
Please. And Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. So in Matthew chapter 2, verse 15, we are told by the author that the family going to Egypt, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, going to Egypt in order to flee Herod the Great that's seeking to kill the Messiah, is a fulfillment of a passage found in Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. I want you to look at your Christian Bible carefully, because I want you to know that I'm not making this up. If you look at Matthew 2, verse 15, in the footnote, it will always say in the Christian Bible that this is a reference, this is a quote of Hosea 11, verse 1. I'm not setting up a straw man and toppling it. I am steel manning this. I am presenting the Christian belief and teaching accurately, rigorously. Now, go back to Hosea chapter 11, verse 1, and read it in context. When Israel was a child, then I loved him, and out of Egypt have I called my son. It's not talking about the Messiah. It's not even talking about going to Egypt, it's talking about an exodus from Egypt. Matthew just dumped the beginning and just kept the end. How do you play with my Bible? And if you're going to play with my Bible, you think I'm going to convert to Christianity, get baptized? Because what? Matthew should be...
I love that. He's basically telling them off, like, dude, no, 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 no. That's just funny.
put in jail for this. You would go to jail for this if you did this in torts in a courtroom. Lawyers are disbarred for behaving like this with contracts. This is the kind of stuff that gets you thrown in jail. This is a crime. Okay? Now, I need to address one other point. It should be bothering you. It should sound, the story should sound weird for another reason. That is, if the star had magical powers, that it was able to identify the home in which Jesus was born in, the Joseph and Mary home, why did they need Herod? Why the stop-off in the palace? Why is that inserted in the story? Got it? That means if the star is magical and could find the home of the Messiah, because there's no information imparted in the palace of Herod of where in Bethlehem does the child live, which home it is. So the star knows. So why it's a completely vestigial part of the story. Like, why do you need it? Why doesn't the star just take the Magi straight from the east, straight to Bethlehem? Why the stop off in Jerusalem to find out Bethlehem? No, because that's not enough information. You see? The reason is to contrast. Matthew is incentivized to contrast the behavior of the Jews when the Jews discover who the Messiah is and how the Gentiles do. When the Gentiles discover that there's a Messiah born, they want to find him and worship him and bring gifts. When the Jews find out, they want to kill everybody to make sure they could eradicate the Messiah. They are enemies of God. That story, that characterization follows throughout the gospel and explodes in Matthew 27, which is a passion narrative rather than an infancy narrative. Because there we have a similar kind of setting. You have Gentiles and Jews observing Jesus's trial and reacting in a completely different fashion to Jesus, whereas Pontius Pilate and his wife think Jesus is innocent, and Pontius Pilate goes through the ritual of literally washing his hands of this because he wants nothing to do with it, because he sees this man Jesus as innocent, as does his wife. The only mention of Pontius Pilate's wife in all of the Christian Bible, she's had a dream about Jesus the night before, and she knows that Jesus is innocent. And the Jews are screaming, "Crucify him." And in verse 25, scream, "We take his blood upon ourselves and our children." You want to know why Christians hate Jews?
Yeah.
Because of passages like that.
Bible.
Christians aren't crazy for hating us. When you take that kind of grotesque story and you vilify the Jews as the Jews are the enemies of God from the get-go, that's the key. it's like the bookends. From the birth to the death, the Jews are in it. And then the Jews further, the leaders of the Jews, who find out from the Roman soldiers who were there to guard the tomb of Jesus. Stupidly, they have the guarding beginning on Saturday, so someone could have taken the body out Friday night. That never happened. None of that happened. Just a silly mistake in the book of Matthew. But when the guards come back and they're being offered bribes to shut up about the story and say that you fell asleep. Like when they discover, when the priests discover that Jesus really does resurrect from the dead, that means that he really cannot. Like, why don't they just believe in Jesus then? Like, do you need more proof? No, they're still on the side of Satan because they are the seed of the devil, John 8:44. These Christians that hate Jews and think the Jews are the enemies of God, they're not bad. They've just
they're
been,
God's
their
chosen
minds have
people.
been polluted. They've been just completely brainwashed by these terrible stories, these lies. And what I'm doing, what I want to illustrate to you is it's not like, well, he's a rabbi. He wants to show why the Jews are good and the Christians are bad. No. That's why I'm saying let's take empirical evidence. Forget me. Like, just open your Bible. So what you need to do, I just would encourage you to do, is take whatever Bible is.
The difference is Jews know their Bible. Exactly. Jews knows their Bible. That's why you're never going to be able to convert a Jew if you're a Christian, because you have absolutely no idea what you're up against, and you have absolutely no idea what Jews actually believe. You've been taught this narrative all your life that they're just hateful and they just want to defy God and not see who God really is, when they're way more likely to be able to tell you who God is than you are.
In your home. Compare Matthew 2, verse 6 to Micah 5, verse 2. Just side by side. You got the Bible on your computer, you could just open up two browsers and look it up for yourself. In that case, Matthew removed the end of Micah 5:2. Just removed it and put something else in its place. He'll be a shepherd over Israel. Okay? Deleted, and his origins are from ancient times, from days of old, from ancient times. Deletes that, gone, disappeared, eradicated. Replaced with he'll be a shepherd over Israel, grabs that from a couple of verses later. Okay? You need to see that. This is not the ranting of a rabbi in Jerusalem who doesn't want you to be a Christian. This is empirical evidence that the author of the book of Matthew lied to you.
Yep.
Okay? Don't use my Bible. Use yours. The more Christy, the better, because then you know. Okay? And again, move forward to Matthew 2:15. Same chapter. We're still in the infancy narrative. And compare Matthew 2, verse 15 to Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. In that case, it's the beginning of the Jewish Bible quote that's eradicated. When Israel was a child, then I loved and called my... And that part is stricken, and the only part that's quoted is the end of Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. Look up Matthew 2:15 and open up Hosea chapter 11, verse 1 and compare them. Is Hosea chapter 11, verse 1 a prophecy about the Messiah? No. But if you read in Matthew, you won't know that. Why not? Because the church has lied to you. The church deliberately quoted the very end of Hosea 11, verse 1, because they want you to remain in the church and to give tithes and to believe in a false God. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed them to do something so stupid and not correct it, so any person could walk away from this filth, run away from this spiritual dirt.
Run away.
That's why it's so transparent. Other religions, it may be more difficult to prove that it's a scam, it's a lie. Here it's transparent. So the story didn't happen, but and what I also want to illustrate, what I am illustrating to you is that the story is designed, the plot device is designed to have a stop off in Jerusalem, to demonstrate, for no other reason, doesn't add to the story, in order to illustrate this is how Jews react to Christ and this is how Gentiles react to Christ. Herod and his hordes want to kill the Messiah. The king of the Jews wants to kill the Messiah, and the Gentiles want to revere the Messiah. And then it goes further. I mean, I don't know, you want to go further. And then, of course, Joseph and Mary want to go back home to Bethlehem, but they're told that actually that Herod the Great is dead, and his son Herod Archelaus, who was crazier than his father, is now in control of Judea. And this is you can't go back to Bethlehem, which is your hometown, but rather go to Nazareth. And the Magi are informed not to go back the way you came, so that no one finds out where the child's born. So the Gentiles, the simple Gentiles, are protecting the Messiah from Herod, whereas the Jews are trying to kill him, trying to kill the Messiah. This is so clear, so transparent. I'm not going to go off here, but just one. Luke has the whole thing the opposite. The family starts out in Nazareth. They make their way to Bethlehem and have to stay in a barn because there's no room at the inn. That's pure L source. And
why on earth would the Davidic king want to be associated with the Gentiles and not the Jews? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. The only way it makes sense is in Christians' minds, because Christians think that was the way that God was bringing the entire world to him. And that's what they told me in the Christian church too, is oh no, this is the way God brought everyone to know him, because the Jewish Messiah was supposed to fill the earth with God's knowledge and know who the true God is. So Christians twist that and say, yeah, Jesus did that because now everybody knows about him and everyone can be saved, even though he didn't actually fulfill anything, and he didn't do what God said he was gonna do. I mean, if God said in the Old Testament, I'm gonna send you a man named Jesus and I'm gonna put him on a cross and kill him and then he's gonna save humanity, that's pretty clear, but that's not what he said in the Old Testament. So
and then they don't go to Egypt. They go back after the proper time. They go back a month later. They go back to Nazareth, stopping off in Jerusalem for Mary to bring the proper offerings as prescribed in the book of Leviticus. There's no Egypt there. It doesn't exist there. Two opposite stories that both could not have happened, let alone Matthew places the birth of Jesus prior to the death of Herod the Great, whereas Luke has Jesus born around 11 years later. I can go on and on. Look it up for yourself. Turn to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Rid yourself of this filth. Wash yourself. Touch nothing unclean. And turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Happy Hanukkah.
Let's get biblical. Yeah. I like listening to him because it gives me a different perspective on the Bible, and it's definitely one that I was not taught growing up. And he's totally right about Christians hating Jews, because, yeah, I was told my whole life, the Jews were the enemy, because they rejected God, and they rejected Jesus, and they rejected anything that they were told, when in reality, Christians are just completely blind to what Jews actually believe. And if they actually talk to a Jewish person, or do something outside of their own comfort zone and find out what they actually believe, but they don't want to take the time to do that, because looking outside their religion makes them scared, because if they find out at any point that what they've been taught is wrong, they're afraid that what they believe will go out the window, and they don't want that. They don't want to lose their religion. They don't want to lose their faith. Even if it's not true. And I'm not saying people can't change. I mean, people can change. I've changed. I'm not a Christian anymore. And, I have lots of friends that are slowly coming out of the church that, grew up Christian, and they can see these problems. They can look at the evidence, and like the rabbi said, he's like, dude, look at the evidence yourself. Don't just listen to people in the church. Rabbi Michael Skobach has Jews for Judaism, and he is just as good as Tova. Nice. Yeah, it's always interesting to me to hear, like, some of those rabbis talk about, like, the Jews for Jesus, because it's utterly ridiculous the way that they, like, twist things and try to make themselves seem like they're Jewish when they're not. They're Christian. And Christians are very different than Jews. They have a very different perspective on the Bible and what it actually says, and I don't know, it's really weird. And I think that's a good thing, though, is to have those different perspectives, because it does show you what the problems are with the original text. And jeez, I'm yawning. The original, like, Old Testament texts and the New Testament texts, and how they don't match up, and how they don't, like I said, they're all made to fit the agenda of the church. They're not made to tell you truth and to lead you into, knowledge of what is actually true versus what is myth. And it's hard to get people to, like, see that. I mean, you can tell them day in and day out that the facts that they're told aren't true. But like I said, unless they're willing to look at it themselves and they're willing to change their minds, there's nothing you can do. And people who are stuck in their ways, and, like I was talking about yesterday with experiences, people will say they've had these experiences, and it doesn't matter to them if they're true or not, because those experiences to them outweigh any facts or things that would tell them that what they believe isn't true. Because they honestly believe they've had things happen in their life that God has done. Or, God showed up in their room one time and told them that he was real. Or Jesus showed up, or they had a dream. Or, like, they use all of these things that can't, like, be proven that they're real to continue in their faith. And I'm not saying it's not possible. I mean, yeah, if God wanted to reveal himself to you, he would. But the problem is, why would he do it in a way that we know could also medically be seen as, like, a hallucination, or your brain messing with you, or, even auditory hallucinations are a thing too. Or even, just talking to yourself. Sometimes you think you might hear something in your head from something else, but it's really just your brain, like, talking to you. So, I don't know. I guess for me, because I've never had, like, a supernatural experience, and I've never seen anything supernatural ever happen. I've heard stories. I've heard lots of people talk about things like that, but I mean, from my perspective and from the way I was raised, I've never had any reason to believe in the supernatural. Even when I was a Christian, like, I didn't see anything supernatural ever happen. And I think that might have been a huge factor in me becoming an atheist too, is because my experiences are very different than people who have, experiences with, like, hallucinations or things like that. I don't see things, I don't hear things, I've never experienced the things that people claim that they've experienced. And part of me is, like, really grateful for that, because it's like, oh, maybe that means I'm, like, healthy. But at the same time, another part of me is like, well, are people healthy, or is there really, like, some type of, like, issue that needs to be dealt with? I don't know. It's just hard. I guess for me, like, if God was real, he would find a better way to communicate with humanity than in ways that we know can trick us, like our brain tricking us, or and writing books. Like, I think the Bible is a huge example of how it's not, that's not a book written by a god, because there's so much just violence and hatred. And I guess for me, looking at it, it doesn't look all loving, all powerful, all knowing God would not write a book that would look very man-made and very horrible in the ways that the Bible treats people. I feel like if there was an all-loving, all-powerful, all-knowing God, like, he would actually, write down, don't keep women as property, and, treat children like people. Like, don't treat them like property or sell them, or I don't know. There's just so many problems with the Bible in general, and a book with failed prophecies like in Ezekiel. Yeah, and I don't know. I'm atheist. I don't think there's a God. I'm not saying there's not, but I just don't see a reason to believe there's a God. And I don't feel like it's something that I need in my life, so. But I love learning about, like, religions and different things and studying that kind of stuff. And, everybody has passions and everybody has things that they love. And I just like studying other religions. And I like studying Christianity. And I like studying Judaism. And I like studying, and history. And I think history and religion definitely go together when you can see, like, how things have changed over time and how certain things written in certain, like, holy books don't line up with, like, actual history, and how you can see that a lot of it is, like, mythology, or it's just other stories taken from, that culture or that time period. So I don't know. That's just something I like to do. And I'm sure there's people out there that think I'm weird and a nerd for liking that stuff, but it's what I like to do. And I think it's important to know. I guess for me, I think it's important to know, like, the basis of, why I don't believe and why I have taken the path I have in life. And I think I have, I don't remember everything I read, and I don't have, like, a photographic memory, but I've read enough and I know enough to know that, like, religion isn't something that I need in my life. So, but at the same time, like, I also like getting out here and talking about it, just so, like, other people who have been through that, or who are even questioning, or still Christian, and see, issues with the Bible, can come on here and go, yeah, these are issues that we need to address. And I wish more Christians would do that, because even if they stay Christian, if they would stand up and address some of the issues that they have, instead of, like, ignoring them or telling people to just get out of their church or not dealing with them. Like we were talking about yesterday, conversation. Like, a lot of Christians, it's not about conversation. It's about conversion. And that's the biggest problem, is that, if Christians actually took time to know atheists like myself, or even people who are, theistic but just believe differently, having an actual conversation with them where they listen and understand, like, where we are coming from and why we chose the path we did in life, as opposed to, why they chose the path they did in life, or where they are standing in their own faith and why they believe that and why they stand by that faith. And it's just frustrating that so many of them, draw a line and go, no, I'm not going to talk about certain things because I absolutely refuse to look into those things because I don't want to lose my faith. And it's like, you're missing out on so much of the world and so much more knowledge that you could have. Even if you don't lose your faith, you have a better understanding of what your faith is, and you have a better understanding of why you believe it, and you can talk to people about that. But most of them aren't willing to do that, and it's sad. And it's weird too, because then they go up against people like, you know, me, who don't believe in God, and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about, and all this stuff, and it's like, I kind of do. Like, I don't have a PhD in it, but I've studied enough to know that the things you are saying don't line up with what the Bible actually says, or don't line up with what Judaism actually says, or... But at the end of the day, everybody has to make their own decisions on what they do or do not believe, so... And, you know, I'm not saying I haven't completely... Like, I've made my decision from what I know and what I've seen, and I'm not saying I can't change, you know? Like, I've told... Like, other atheists have said, like, if there was a time that God decided to reveal himself to me, like, in a way that I know that it was actually going to be him, I could change my mind on the fact that there is a God. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna, like, follow that God either, you know? And it would depend on the God and what they portray and things like that. But I don't know. Right now I'm atheist and I'm happy with where I'm at, so yeah. This was good and fun and exciting. I like learning. I'm a nerd. Thanks everyone for coming out and hanging out. Thank you to my patrons. On Patreon. If you guys want to be a patron, you can go to patreon.com/overprotectedatheist. I have a YouTube, Overprotected Atheist, Facebook, Overprotected Atheist, OP_atheist on Twitter, Instagram, Overprotected Atheist. I have a website with everything on it. If you want all my links, overprotectedatheist.com. I honestly hate that I lost my faith. I hate worrying about hell. I don't really worry about hell anymore because I did so much research on it. Like, I kind of know, like, I know the origins and things like that. And once I, like, basically deconstructed all of that, it made me fear it less because I have knowledge on it and I know where it came from. And so yeah, that's not really... I feared hell way more when I was a Christian than being an atheist, so I guess that's my thing, is like, I don't fear hell anymore, and it's nice to not have that feeling, but at the same time, I know a lot of people still do, and it really sucks that so many people have to go through that, you know, that whole process of getting over that fear, which should have never been there to begin with, because nobody should be told they're going to be tortured forever just for not believing something. But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. We live in a world where people think that torturing people for not believing is justice somehow, when it's really not. But yeah. And I made my video on... Man, that was a long time ago. Like, my video on why I don't fear hell anymore. I cringe at all my old videos. Like, I watched my first... It was funny, because, like, Apologia, he asked for, like, new YouTubers from, like, 2021 that people liked, and somebody posted my stuff, and he ended up posting, like, my first video, and I went back and watched it, and I'm like, this is so bad, and so cringe, and... oh my gosh, I want to fix it so bad, because when I look at it now and look at how far I've come in, like, editing and, like, actually getting my characters to talk correctly in my animations and move correctly and stuff, it's just a completely different world. And I just look at it and cringe and go, oh my gosh, it was terrible. Like, But I woke up the next morning and I had like 30 new views on that video, and I was like, what is happening? And then I saw that Paula Gia put me on there, and I was like, oh, guess that's why that's happening. But that was exciting. Yeah, I don't know if I could actually go back and watch some of those other ones, though, because it just make me cringe. Like, ugh. And it's so funny because I've talked to other YouTubers, and they're like, yeah, that's all of us. You know, our first videos are always like, they're not great, but, you know, over time you can see, like, the progression and how people get better and stuff, and I guess that's the good thing, is seeing how far I've come in a year. I can't believe it's almost a year. January 15th, man, that's my 1-year anniversary on YouTube. That's crazy to me. It doesn't seem like it's been a year. It almost seems like, I don't know, it seems longer and shorter at the same time because I've been on for so long, but at the same time, it's like a year is barely anything compared to other people who have been on for like 10, 12 years. But, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you guys know, but, Jake the Atheist, his 1-year anniversary is the same day as mine, so we're gonna do like a collab and just have like a talking session about, you know, what we've learned in our first year on YouTube, and, you know, the things that you know, just things we would tell other people who want to start YouTube channels. And I think we're gonna take like questions from the audience and stuff too, and we're gonna do that on his channel, Jake the Atheist. So if you guys want to go over and if you're not already following him on YouTube, you can go follow him, and I might just do like an announcement or something on YouTube so people know, so they can go over there and hang out with us, because I think that's going to be fun and it'll be nice. And we both come from like the same background because we were both raised in the Assembly of God Church, so we might have stuff to talk about with that too. We'll see. But yeah, I think that's going to be fun. I can't believe it's almost been a year, but I'm excited about it. But yeah, just wanted to let you guys know about that. January 15th. It's a Saturday. I don't think we have a time set yet, but if you can't be there for the live version, you can always watch it later. And I might, if he lets me, I might just post it on my YouTube at a later time. I learned so much over the last year with my notes. It's the greatest thing I've ever done, honestly. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, once you find like something you actually are passionate about and want to talk about and like learn about, and you actually go for it, it's amazing what you can actually learn and what you can actually do with that. And it's just funny because, like, when I was still in my angry atheist stage, like, I wanted to start a YouTube so bad, but I knew I would be so like ticked off about everything, and I wouldn't be able to like get my points across in, I don't think, a good way. I don't know, like communication wise, because I was so angry and almost like frustrated at myself that I had been taught so many wrong things. And I'm kind of glad that I waited as long as I did, because it gave me more time to look more into things and make sure that like what I wanted to talk about and things like that had evidence and had things to back them up. And, you know, this last year has been amazing because I've met so many people, and I've been able to have like conversations with people all over the world and just discuss, you know, coming out of the church and all the things I've learned and all the things they learned when they came out of the church. And you just don't think about a lot of stuff you talk about until you're with other people who have been there too, and you're just like, oh, like, we're kind of all in the same boat, but, you know, there's different avenues that people took, but we all came to the same conclusion. And it's just interesting, and it's fun. I've met so many different people. I have friends all over the world now, and like people are like, hey, come hang out with me and in this country or whatever. And it's exciting. And it's nice to have, that community again, because, like I tell people, once you leave the church, that whole community that you had disappears overnight. It was really interesting when I left because, my really close friends are like, oh, it's fine. Like, we still have friends that aren't, we have friends that aren't Christian. Like, we're not going to abandon you and leave you and stuff. We'll still hang out. And I remember, like, the last time we hung out, like, it was one of my friend's daughter's birthday, and we all went over there and hung out, and then I never heard from them again. And it's not like they purposely, like, pushed us away or anything. It was just, like, the natural thing to happen because I went from seeing those people every Sunday to, like, never being around anymore, so. But, having this online, even if I had never become a YouTuber or a Twitch or whatever, like, knowing that this community is online and knowing that a lot of them, like, hang out in the chats and stuff, that's been really fun to watch and just, see that there are other people out there like me and that I'm not alone in this, and I don't have to be out here talking about stuff if I don't want to, but now you hang out with me. Yes, I do. I hang out with a lot of people and I love it. And I love everyone who talks to me and hangs out with me, and just the deep conversations. I think that's something that I've really missed over the last, I don't know, the few years that I didn't have community and I didn't have church, like, having deep conversations with people, I didn't have that. And, having that now it's nice. And it's nice to, like, be able to dive deep into things with people and not feel like I'm just a nuisance or whatever because they believe something I don't. So that's been nice. And yes, I like hanging out on here. And I like all the people I've met. It's just incredible to me that so many people are against the atheist community online, or, like, Christian. Well, I know Christians are, but I mean, some of the most amazing, sweetest, nicest people I've met in my life are atheists or, non-theists or people who have left the church. And it's just, it's incredible, like, the amount of just caring about each other and taking care of each other. I've never seen people really do that in a community. Like, they kind of do it in church, but it's not the same. Where it's, like, more out of, humanism, and it's like, that is a person, and they deserve love because they're a person, or they deserve to have help because they're a person, as opposed to, well, we need to help them to get them into our church so they can go to heaven. And I think that just gives me peace, too, to know, like, there are good people out there that don't have religion, and they don't believe the same things we do, or I used to believe. I don't believe anymore, but, they don't have to have the same beliefs. And there's even people, there are theists in the atheist community, and they're awesome people too, because, they're willing to put up with some of us atheists. Yeah, I honestly think, like, this is the best group of people that I've ever been around in my life. And that's really sad, since I was in the church for, like, 27, 28 years of my life. But it's true because, they see people as people, and they don't see them as something else. And I think that's what I really enjoy, and just being able to help other people and see all the good that humanity can do to help each other out, even without religion. So, yeah. Alright. It's been a fun day. I'm hungry. It's like 7 o'clock and I have not had dinner yet, so I'm gonna go find me some dinner and maybe chill because I worked all morning. So thanks, guys, for coming. I'll probably be back on tomorrow. I'm starting to think that my live streams are gonna start being more at night now because I've been working in the mornings, and I should hear back. I was supposed to hear back today about that job offer, but my boss from my last job texted me today and was like, yeah, they called me today for reference, so I'm thinking they might call me tomorrow and let me know if I got the job. But if they got her as a reference, I'm sure I'm gonna be okay, because she's awesome and she loves me, and I'm sure she said amazing things about me. So, but yeah, if I get that job, then I will probably be on here more at night, because I have to work from like 11 to 1 at the school cafeteria. So we'll see how all that works, but I can switch my schedule around and do what I need to do to hang out with everybody on here. So just know that that might be changing soon. But I mean, it'll be good. It'll be good to have a job and get out of the house and not be cooped up by myself, because it's been a long time since I've been in the job market and, you know, been around other people. I need to be around people more. It's not good for me to just be alone, but, you know. Anyways, thanks for coming, friends, and I hope I will see you all tomorrow. If you like my channel, you want to sub, go ahead. I got 16 days to go for 15 subs. If we get 15 subs, I get a new emote thing, and then you guys can help me choose a new emote. So if you guys want to sub to that or just follow me, that's fine too. I know somebody gave Tons of Mice a sub yesterday just so he could put Pennywise all over my screen. So if you guys don't know, if you want Pennywise, you have to get the top tier. Tier 3 is Pennywise, but somebody was nice and gave it to Tons of Mice yesterday, so he was excited about that one. I'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. Bye, friends.